Hello? Welcome to a series slash fandom that is basically on life support. Tattletale. Fun game from 2016. This video will be an in-depth essay on the DLC for this game called the Kaleidoscope. I have a script here. So, probably going to upload this after I'm finished with the Kaleidoscope, obviously, since I'm doing an essay on it. Now, Tattletale as a game, it died off because it didn't have many updates. It had its original release and then it had a DLC and then that was it. But the thing is, I ironically think it should have been less. And to be honest, I'm almost happy it stopped. That was all it needed to be. Because FNAF ruined itself with complicated lore and diluted games to the point where he had the possession down to a science and it wasn't scary anymore because the element of mystery disappeared. A lot of people forget that. They need to make these giant stories and universes and separate dimensions and stuff. But the original element of horror is the idea that you don't know what is going to happen. Because when you think about it, the term afraid of the dark, it's not truly honest. Because you're not afraid of the dark. You're afraid of what could be in the dark that you are not able to see. Because it would have been better if the DLC never happened. For many reasons. The first one is Tattletale has two endings. Right? But in the DLC, the possibility of the bad ending being canon. Typically, when games have continuations like this, they need to go down the plot of the good ending, because that's typically the ending where the character survives. The thing is, the bad ending should feel like it's real, and you could have prevented it, not an alternate universe that has no possibility of being true. That's why I think that games with multiple endings should almost always be the final game in their series. That's honestly why I didn't like FNAF 3. Because the idea of multiple endings creates multiple timelines. But you're basically throwing away all the other mini stories that you've created when you just decide that one ending is the true one. That's why FNAF UCN should have never happened. The completion ending should have never been recognized as canon. I'm just using FNAF as a reference here because it's the game I play the most, but there's tons of other games that have multiple endings that eventually ruin themselves with more. Because here's the thing about the idea of multiple endings. All of them need to be respected the same and all seen as canon. Because they pretty much are until it's made official that one is canon. Now, anyways, the bad ending kind of has like a certain feel to it. Now, I'm not saying like I like one ending over the other, but to be honest, I've always kind of preferred the bad ending. Like just seeing the empty box and then you get a jump scare is honestly, it might not be like the craziest or the most shocking or the most dramatic moments in gaming. But I think that is legitimately in like top 10 gaming moments of all time for me. You can have a different opinion on this. So the second reason is that the DLC takes what I call the FNAF route. They started to try and create a universe and put it down to a science. I think the fact that the mama is an old version of Tattletale that's been in your basement for years that suddenly tries to attack you for unknown reasons, and the only way to stop it is with a ritual that you're not sure how it works. It's just so interesting. Truly gives you a feeling of being trapped. FNAF 1 had that feeling, maybe even FNAF 2 before I get, but FNAF 3, that's when the slippery slope started. So, my next point I want to put down is another thing with the FNAF route is that in the DLC that it introduces loose threads in a way. The first game has a few loose threads, but those loose threads were something to admire and chat about. DLC introduces characters, evil companies, another dimension, experiments, possession, and altered consciousness. Problem is that unlike FNAF, it didn't take the last step down the FNAF route, nor did it try to backtrack. It just stopped, dead in its tracks, leaving more loose ends. Except these loose ends aren't something to have fun with. They're random clues that confuse everyone with no clear answer. Now, another thing about the DLC is that it ruined the first game in a way. It undid all the progress you did in the first game and wipes your memory for no reason. Who is this man? Why does he know about the kaleidoscope? What is the kaleidoscope? Why does it have my memories? Why are my memories gone? Why do I even want them back? These are all questions that are never answered. Let's, for a moment, let's step out of the game universe for a second and look on the reason why it ruined the original game. The creator of the game is obviously capable of making great games. What happened? There's an easy explanation for this. We're the reason the DLC was bad. The term hype plays a key role here. Before a game is made, the creator has practically infinite time to make it the best it can be, because it doesn't have a fandom yet, so nobody will notice if it gets delayed. However, once it got popular, they didn't have long before it would lose that popularity. So it's simple. He rushed the DLC because he didn't have time to actually put care into it. I think the creator's actually a she, I believe. I don't know. Now, another problem with the DLC is that it does ruin the original game, but it also kind of ruins the mystery aspect, like I've said. The fun part about the game was mystery, because there's two ways you can take this game. You could take like a theoretical or like a metaphorical approach where it's a metaphor for the child's abusive mother and like trying to like be quiet not to wake her up and stuff. Or you can just take it at face value, which is also a viable way to take it and fun on its own as well. You're running around your house while a giant Furby is chasing you. That's fun, isn't it? Now, real quick, that's pretty much the end of the video. But I just want to real quick say something. A theory that I liked. This is gonna come and play later. Don't worry. A theory that I liked was a theory that it all is a metaphor, because children project their lives into how they play with their toys. So the theory was that Tattletale represents the kid, and Mama obviously represents his mother. And you have to stay quiet because you will wake your mother up if you're too loud, and that might cause some abuse. It's just a theory. So, and my favorite part about this theory, I don't know why it's my favorite, I just like this part of the theory so much, is that the good ending where you collect all the eggs is the eggs are the mess you make when you play with Tattletale, and you gotta collect it, or else your mother will find out about the fact you took out Tattletale, and that's why we get the mama jump scare in the bad ending. She found out about the eggs. Now, the reason that comes into play is the fact that it even has a theory at all. A completely alternate theory. Separate from Waygetter, separate from the house, separate from anything. Just a separate, fun theory. And it didn't need exposition from a different universe. It just represents a concept. But the thing is, the DLC takes that feeling away, in a way. You can't theorize in a way other than what the game offers you to be able to theorize. It's kind of like they're blocking off a section of theorization, which is a big part of these mascot horror communities, by giving you a definitive timeline. It gives you definitive like other dimensions, which basically throws the metaphor theory away. And honestly, it just makes everything definitive, which is never something you want in these kinds of games. My final point here is that Tattletale, as much it is a legend in gaming, and I would love a sequel. I have to admit, a sequel or any kind of continuation in any way would ruin it, and we see that here with the Kaleidoscope DLC. It was always supposed to be a one-time thing, because while the developer was making the Kaleidoscope, it was no longer the game about scary Furbies. It was now the sequel to the legendary hyped game. And that's a big expectation to live up to. Tattletale was always best as a standalone thing. I want to thank you all for listening to this video essay. There hasn't been a lot of Tattletale content recently because the fandom has been on heavy life support. That's pretty much it. I won't fluff up the video more. I'll see you guys on whatever the next project I decide to do. You can let me know. I might do a Doki Doki essay since I recently played that game. You can subscribe if you want. Bye.